Update on a fire that flared up big.
A lot happens in a week.
Get ready to get hot. You can even see some flames right there.
When the weather gets extreme.
They want people poised to get out quickly.
And danger seems close to home.
Please return to your home, gather your pets and your loved ones.
You want to be prepared.
Residents did have to evacuate.
You want to stay informed.
Just how closely today's efforts are.
You turn to Channel 2 News, Alaska's news source.
Well, the wildfires have us all on edge.
People were screaming in the streets.
50 or more buildings have burned.
Get your valuables and get out.
Evacuate now.
It was red.
Wind, flames, smoke.
We dropped everything and left.
Firefighters are battling several fires.
There's a line of cars waiting to get in.
Really an unprecedented fire danger.
You need to turn back and you'll be stuck there for a long time.
We are Willow strong. We will rebuild. We will come back.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, here's the count tonight, and it is not good. 51 homes, 3 businesses, and approximately 80 outbuildings.
That is the destruction of the McKinley fire so far.
Seeing these fires from the airs really makes it easier to understand how much the fire behavior has changed since this weekend. Now, right now, both of these fires are growing at much slower paces. Fire leaders said they had little growth yesterday and overnight. They're growing at a creeping pace along the ground, burning grasses and into the duff layer. Now, the Deshka fire, a lot of folks are concerned about that because it's very close to cabins near Red Shirt Lake. But right now, the Division of Forestry says no buildings have been burned. Tomorrow morning, a Type 2 incident management team will take over that fire. Now, as for the McKinley fire, it was burning with more pockets that we could see, and they were definitely burning more intensely than the Deshka fire. They haven't finished the damage assessment for the McKinley fire, but they have updated the estimated number so far of buildings burned to around 80.
There is a big fire in Anchorage that is causing evacuations and a massive response by police and firefighters.
Lake Otis and 64th is now shut down, extending to Lake Otis and Dowling. This is due to that rapidly spreading brush fire that originated in the area of MLK and Elmore.
If you are experiencing some evacuations, you can go to Wendler Junior High. That's where they're operating the evacuation center. Also, in recent developments, it looks like ABC Elementary was evacuated as well. The fire department is telling us to tell parents that you can pick up your children immediately from Wendler Junior High. People Mover is on scene to transfer children to Wendler Junior High. It's a safer location than ABC Elementary.
First got on scene, I think it was reported as about a 40 by 40, and then it grew really rapidly to 200 by 200, and I think reached about 10 acres before we were able to get fire retardant on it with the first drop, and then our latest estimation of space is 15 acres.
You can see another helicopter going through with either fire retardant or water to try to get this fire under control. 80% contained last we heard, and be investigating over the next 2 days to see what was the cause.
The Sterling Highway reopened to traffic today at noon after flames jumped the roadway over the weekend. It burned up the land from mile marker 70 down to Skalac Lake Road, and it actually hopped the water at Jim's Landing. The Swan Lake fire was knocked down last month by a brief stretch of rain and some colder weather, but crews are shorthanded across Alaska this summer, so the fire was not completely extinguished at that time. Today, we're focusing right here on the fire that's taking place at Rainy Pass. That's been burning for about 3 days now. Well, the latest numbers available show us that fire having burned 96 acres, and this is actually burning near the Rainy Pass Lodge. That's a historic stop along the Iditarod Trail.
Good evening, everyone. We just got the story in a few minutes ago. Tonight, we are getting our first close-up look at the damage caused by the McKinley fire near Willow.
Channel 2 reporter Grant Robinson and photojournalist Leah Schwartz were taken behind the fire line this evening to see the destruction.
We were able to drive north from Willow on the Parks Highway as far as Hidden Hills Road out to the Sheep Creek. As soon as we passed the Kashwitna River, we could see smoke on both sides of the highway very close to the road, billowing up in small pockets. Then once we got closer to Caswell, we could start to see the damage from this fire. The main building at Caswell Supply is gone. A few others on the property were also burned, while others seem to be spared. And that's another thing that we saw along this drive. Parts of property can be completely burned, while others seem to be untouched. You can see that from driving along the highway, but what's harder to see are all the hazards that are in place here. The fire burned the roots of these trees, and every couple of minutes we're hearing a big snap and then a crash, and that's a tree falling down. There are also areas with propane and natural gas tanks, and those pose an explosive risk. And areas that may look to be totally burnt out could be ash pits.
if only the rain fell sooner. Then Al Fisher might not have to live in this tent.
Well, I've got an 8x14 tent in this 12x14 awning, which a neighbor referred to as a redneck man cave because I have a recliner in it.
Not much for entertainment here, which is fine for Al because when the rain lets up, it's back to work.
It was quiet and peaceful. It kind of looks like a war zone now.
Missing his home of 40 years, his dog of 13.
When the last time I saw her, she was underneath the house. There was like firemen all around the house, and she was freaking out. She was on her last legs, so.
His cars, his beloved tools.
Before the fire, I'd be using a battery-operated drill right now.
The McKinley fire took what he had, so he's rebuilding by hand, just like he did with his cabin before.
This is all that's left of my memories out of the house. You know, family heirlooms that of grandparents and parents that are no longer with us anymore.
In slightly better condition, a ring belonging to David's late wife, who passed after a battle with cancer. Her ashes disappeared with the fire.
A lot of the stuff we won't be able to fix or replace, but this, I'm hoping that at least we could have a little something.
It was the discussion of the day how heavy that smoke was here in Anchorage, but we're not the hardest hit. Checking out Skycam 2, sunshine, blue sky, but that persistent smoke layer there at the bottom of the screen. But of course, we have fires burning across the state. Before I zoom in, I want to point out Southeast is seeing impacts from interior and Western Canada fires, and then into the interior. Fairbanks has a dense smoke advisory in place until early tomorrow morning, and then down here in South Central, we have that dense smoke advisory until noon tomorrow for the interior areas of the Kenai. Air quality in Anchorage has been in the unhealthy range for much of the day. Fairbanks also in the unhealthy to very unhealthy at times.
In Alaska, the weather can change quickly. So rely on the most experienced team of TV meteorologists in the state.
We'll see a low pressure system trying to move in.
That tsunami warning was canceled more than an hour ago.
The amount of sea ice off the coast of Utqiagvik has changed dramatically.
High wind advisory, so be careful on the roads this morning.
Tune into the team you trust to stay weather aware, statewide, on the go, and breaking weather alerts. Get it all with the Channel 2 Weather Team. Trust experience. What will happen to Alaska's wildlife? Where do you go when your home is disappearing? How will you survive when your resources are slipping away? Who isn't affected, and why does Alaska have more to lose? Our team of journalists travel across the state to examine what's at stake as Alaska sits on the front lines for climate change and help answer some of your biggest questions. Join the Channel 2 News team for a week-long special, Endangered Frontier, Alaska's Changing Climate.
Start seeing a big change.
Tuesday on Channel 2 News, we travel to the northernmost Alaskan community.
There's no sea ice anywhere in sight.
For the people who live here, it's all about adapting.
As warming temperatures alter lifestyles.
My whalers are having a hard time trying to get well because there's no more ice here.
On Tuesday's Endangered Frontier, Alaska's Changing Climate, how Utqiagvik's subsistence and cultural heritage is threatened by a disappearing landscape. The Arctic Ocean, calm waters, amazing in its beauty. But it's what's not there that's remarkable.
Where the people of the ice and snow, there's no ice, there's hardly any snow.
The people who live in Alaska's northernmost community are first-hand witnesses to a changing climate.
It started off when I was in middle school, and that was when springtime, the ice would break up early, everything would melt.
Springtime doesn't come when it normally comes, and fall time doesn't come when it normally comes. It's like it's twisted a little bit.
This is what it looks like off the coast of Utqiagvik, mid-October 2019. I'm going to take you back to 1988 to show you the remarkable difference.
The world's attention shifted to northern Alaska in early October 1988 when 3 gray whales got trapped in Arctic ice.
The ice formed this thick in 5 days. But and you could drive a truck over the ice.
The building is literally sinking into the soil.
20 years ago, Dave Watts bought a fourplex in Fairbanks.
It settled more.
At $113,000, it seemed like a great deal.
The drawback is that it's sinking into the mud.
He loses more of his home every year,
You can get an idea here of how much settling has occurred.
leading to constant repairs.
If I put $100,000 into this building, I could get it fairly leveled up and stable for 15 years maybe.
Watts is one of hundreds of people impacted.
For centuries, the mystique of Alaska has called to us. Its wild, unforgiving lands, deliriously high mountain peaks, and miles of ice across expansive glaciers. But that landscape is increasingly unfamiliar. It's changing. In fact, some say it's already changed. In a little town in southwest Alaska, change has come to their shores. Newtok, a village of about 400 people, is being squeezed.
It's too dangerous to stay here. I am scared for my kids.
The Ninglick River on one side, the Bering Sea on the other.
I mean, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress behind it all, trying to make sure that our people need not worry.
How many kids still are living with you over at the house?
7.
7?
7, I think. Wait. 6. 6.
Are you afraid for them?
Oh, yeah. I am afraid for them.
The people of Newtok live a mainly subsistence lifestyle, getting their food from the land and ocean. But both the land and the ocean they rely on is changing how they must live. A little bit every day.
It changes every year.
As the bank of the Ninglick River continues to crumble. In just the past few years, town leaders say about 200 feet of land has been washed away. For Andrew John, that includes the physical memories of his godparents' home, which was demolished along with several others as the river quickly approached.
It's a journalist's greatest responsibility, the search for truth. At KTUU Investigates, we're working for you.
And that's been clean. We have a black mold issue.
Following the trail, digging deep to find the truth.
How much money will it take to clean this up?
It's about the whole picture, your family and your safety. Made the DEA's National Clandestine Drug Lab Registry. KTUU Investigates, your questions answered, only on Channel 2 News.
Imagine waiting nearly 9 months to bury a murdered loved one. A family enduring just that reached out to KTUU Investigates. Tired of waiting, they wanted to share their story of murder, money, and a mother's broken heart. Channel 2's Jill Burke has the story.
That's exactly what's happened to one family from the Valley, and that's exactly why they're holding a local funeral home accountable for what they say is nothing short of ransoming the dead. Nearly 9 months after his murder, the family of Eddie Myers is faced with a different kind of wound.
Jensen's has told me twice that they want money up front, and he's still not buried.
Myers, an iron worker and father of 3 grown boys, died Christmas Eve, killed, prosecutors say, by his middle son, Mark Myers. The criminal investigation delayed settling the estate.
They knew there was a policy from the Ironworkers Union to pay for the funeral, but they were demanding cash payment.
The Myers family shared their story with KTUU Investigates, and after it aired, the solutions they'd been hoping for fell into place. Channel 2 investigative reporter Jill Burke has the follow-up.
In the days following our story, the family of Eddie Myers got results. A steep bill dramatically reduced, a source of money shook loose, and perhaps most importantly, a gravesite and a final goodbye for a slain loved one. For the people who loved Eddie Myers, a long, drawn-out effort to lay him to rest came to an end on a rainy Friday afternoon in Palmer.
I felt that was kind of like heaven mourning with us that day, you know, like tears falling from the sky, because it was such an emotional event after 9 months to finally be able to lay him to rest.
The ironworker shot and killed on Christmas Eve, but for nearly 9 months, the family was not able to hold a funeral. 5 days after KTUU first aired their story, closure and healing, especially for his sons.
They couldn't stop him from dying, although they tried. And now they could at least do what was left, and that was to bury him.
It's still going. Things are falling in my house.
Thursday on Channel 2 News, the jolt that damaged more than just roads and houses. For some, a fractured sense of security.
It's been a year.
Shaken but not broken, Mike Ross interviews a family dealing with emotional aftershocks.
I've been pretty anxious about just another earthquake hitting.
In a Channel 2 News special 1 year later, the quake, the aftermath, the recovery. Friday on Channel 2 News, chaos in the classroom.
Started shaking rapidly and just dove under the table.
Despite a shocking appearance,
The buildings did exactly what they were designed to do.
destroyed ceiling tiles, disconnected walls, and construction zones for at least another year.
Like this, that's bad.
In a Channel 2 News special, 1 year later, we visit some of the most damaged schools to find out what still needs to be repaired and who will cover the cost.
The earthquake damage here on the Minnesota Drive ramp at West International Airport Road was seen around the world. And at a time where construction season is typically wrapped up, it was right back to work for hundreds of DOT workers and contractors working to make emergency repairs in some of the area's most critical pieces of infrastructure.
November 30th, 2018 was a typical Friday morning at work for DOT project engineer Maher Abweed. That is until 8:30 a.m.
The monitor started just shaking and fell off.
Just an hour later, this is what he was faced with.
It was kind of shocking how much damage was happening. The road just left off.
Tasked with designing a plan to repair this cracked, crumbling, and impassable stretch of road, a critical corridor leading up to Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport.
Today we take you back to some of those homes and the people we profiled after the quake to see how much has been repaired.
It was a year ago this week. The ground shook with a magnitude 7.1 earthquake.
It was incredible how much damage there was.
We're halfway through.
And many are still struggling to fix the damage.
Every piece of drywall was cracked all the way through from corner to corner and everywhere.
Morgan Fredrickson lives in Eagle River, and despite a year of repairs, he actually considers himself lucky because he had insurance.
That's actually a smaller crack.
The 7.1 quake resulted in a near total rebuild of his home.
Yeah, basically down to the guts.
The cost? About $280,000, as much as the house is worth.
Try to focus on the things we can control, right?
Just down the road, parts of David Baldwin's house had to be lifted and re-leveled. In some parts, the front porch shook free and fell off. And he still needs to fix the sheetrock, which will cost more than $100,000.
It was pretty bad to sit here and take a look at all this damage and this broken concrete behind us and cinder blocks and realize just how much damage there was to the home.
Eagle River suffered some of the worst damage in South Central. Homes like this one became the public face of the destruction.
Government has to live within its means.
PFD now!
All eyes are on the Alaska state budget.
The budget cuts have affected all Alaskans.
When you want to know how it will impact your community.
It's a starting point for negotiations.
We're taking a different tack with a smaller budget.
With Alaska's future in the balance.
Impacts his proposed cuts. These services and more will not be provided.
Time is money.
Team coverage from Channel 2 News, Alaska's news source.
This week we begin a series of stories where we'll explore how a budget veto, a cut, could impact you. We begin tonight with Alaska Public Media and the idea that public safety could be impacted by cuts.
We expected it to happen.
The shows on at Alaska Public Media during the day are for the kids. Colorful stories meant to entertain and educate. The halls are empty. Reporters are out gathering the day's news. And what the general manager wants you to know is that if the state money that pays for some of this goes away, you'd lose a lot.
What you're really paying for when you provide grants to local stations is potentially life-saving information that you're providing. And so that's going to be compromised, even though the governor believes that he's actually still funding the ARC system. We're going to have to go to our donors, our listeners, our viewers, and make up that basically $400,000 gap.
College is a time of uncertainty in general, but especially now.
The best parts about being in Alaska is the relationship that we have with our local community.
It's been home since before Rome was a city.
I actually think I've seen him once. It looks like Bigfoot.
Someone who has a disability can achieve whatever they want.
The Iditarod, 1,000 miles of hard-earned glory, 1,000 miles of news coverage.
Okay, hold up. Did you just want regular trail coverage? I didn't think so. You want to experience the last great race, right? The strategy, the weather, the exhaustion, the drama, the up close and personal, the mistakes and mishaps, the great unknown of Alaska. If you want that Iditarod experience, then Channel 2 News is the place for you.
For roughly 9 days in March, more than 50 dog teams and their mushers will journey across more than 1,000 miles of desolate Alaska wilderness. The race clock starts tomorrow, but today is about community, fun, and yes, dogs. Lots of dogs ready to run. Welcome to the ceremonial start of Iditarod 2019.
We are on 4th and Cordova. Our KTUU crew's got this whole thing covered from start to finish on the ceremonial start today. We'll be talking to tailgaters, mushers, maybe even a few dogs.
Yeah, I mean, Allie is always a great competitor. Her and Alan, lots of Yukon Quest wins out of that kennel, lots of top 10, lots of second place finishes out of Allie. She's always going to be a competitor. The last few years, I haven't seen the top end speed that Allie has brought in the past, a little bit slower. A lot of other teams are being able to do some of the longer runs and shorter rests, so it'll be really interesting to see. I believe MK caught up with Allie as well.
Yeah, let's hear what you have to say.
The last few years have been a little challenging for me, you know. It took a little while to get over some of the race issues I had 2 years ago or 3 years ago. This year I feel healthy, happy. I feel like the state of Alaska and all the people that are here are rooting for me, and I think I feel that, you know. You got to. When you run down 4th Avenue and everyone's cheering for you and excited, oh my goodness. It doesn't get any better than that. So just getting out on the trail. You ready to get down?
What about you, Violet? You ready?
Yes.
Christina Rose with High Country Kennels. She offered to give us a ride at a fraction of the cost, and
Here we
this
are.
is fantastic.
Yeah.
This is the Iditarod experience. What do you think?
What do you think? What have you gotten from tourists and people just coming by? People playing tourists.
It's just amazing, you know, and they get on, especially when they start to feel the power of the dogs, and they're like, wow, they're actually pretty fast, or these guys really enjoy this kind of stuff. It's really cool.
And this is the Iditarod experience because our lead dog is Owl. Owl ran the Iditarod, I'm told. Is that correct? He was with Dee Dee Genre. There you go. So, Dee Dee, your dog is taking us around the park. We're doing a quarter-mile lap here and having a great time.
The Iditarod never really stops. You train all year long. Preparing to compete takes patience and grit, and you have to dedicate your entire life to it. I'm sorry you can't go on the Iditarod this year, Khaleesi. But this year is going to be a little bit different.
Dee Dee Genre isn't running the Iditarod. She's covering it for Channel 2 News. Tune in to see Iditarod rookie reporter Dee Dee Genre, only on Channel 2 News.
Nobody wins easy. Everybody works at it. But to have it not be sure in your mind till you cross the line, I think that's a pretty high adrenaline rush.
Did you see him, and I mean, you talked about his confidence, but did you see him waver at all? Like, oh man,
I'm getting chased? Or is
No.
it like you said, you
No.
want to cross the line and have it happen?
He would not believe it till it happened. It's there. That tear
Look
is
at
coming
that.
in.
Oh,
Is
this
that
is so
thrilling or
amazing.
what? Yes. Good
And you
job.
can hear
Good
the
job.
crowd. You can see the crowd. Congratulations to Pete Kaiser after all these years.
That's
and the
right.
first UPIC winner of this amazing race. too.
And I just, this is congratulations to his family, to his mom and dad,
Community.
to the community.
Yeah.
I mean, good job, Pete. Good job. He dreamed big and he grabbed it.
How do you say thank you to the men and women who protect our country every day?
To the heroes defending our freedom.
To the selfless and strong who sacrifice for our safety.
To the brave, leaving loved ones miles away to serve where they're needed most.
To the veterans across Alaska, we offer this message of gratitude. Thank you.
When it feels good, waking up, and you got more than coffee filling up your cup. Got a good kind of feeling inside, 'cause you started off the morning just right. Great way to wake up, I like it, gonna be another great day to wake up. It's a great way to wake up kind of day. Oh, it's a great way to wake up.
Do your part to help our city fight crime with the Channel 2 Trash Terminator. He puts trash where it belongs, in the bag. He'll do what it takes to keep Lex Litter from ruining our beautiful city. Take part in the Anchorage Chamber's citywide cleanup. Be a cleanup hero like the Trash Terminator, because it takes a lot of heroes to fight crime.
Hey, Howie. Let's go, Captain Cleanup.
You know what? Howie left this studio in a mess. I don't know if our cameras can show, but perhaps you can take care of this trash that's in the studio. I think one of our sports reporter, MK Burgess, left this.
MK,
Might
thanks
have
a
been
lot
Mike
for
or
leaving a
Maria,
mess. I
Rebecca.
left
I'm not
my
quite
bag
sure.
is in the back over here.
Yeah,
my orange
okay.
bag. So I'm just going to do what I can.
Well, we'll let the Trash Terminator clean up the studio. Don't forget the citywide cleanup is tomorrow, so pick up that
Cape
trash.
Crusader, so if you can help me with some of this stuff.
You need an orange trash bag.
And locally today, a group of reporters in training got to learn more about the news business.
My name is Elena Rankin, reporting from PNA in Alaska. And back to you.
This is the breaking news camp at Create Academy Summer Camp. Myself, as well as photographer AJ Lucero, showed the kids how to be a reporter and a photographer and how those two work together. The students needed some guidance because they're putting together their own newscasts, which is why they wanted to know how a newsroom works.
Rain gear, bug spray, good tunes, full tank. Wait, where's Hank?
Bug zapper, toilet paper, Speedo. What? It's the land of the midnight sun. Everything we need.
Guys, it's not load tripping, it's road tripping.
The Channel 2 road trip is back. Come along for the ride as we explore the land of the midnight sun. Eat, play, sleep, repeat. Road tripping only on Channel 2 News.
Every year, Channel 2 gets out of the office and goes road tripping.
Yeah, this year I think we're the ones that got lucky. We had an amazing time. We swam, we went for hikes, we even found some time to do the chicken dance.
And this year's theme was eat, sleep, play, and repeat. And I can honestly say that we did 3 of those really well. Maybe not sleep so much.
Definitely not much rest on the road, but we'll go ahead and get things started where this year's adventure began in Chitna. It's a little bit off the beaten path, but you can ask anyone who stopped in and they'll tell you that it's more than worth a visit.
Where the hell is Chitna? Well, that's what everyone asks when you tell them where you live.
It's an Alaskan ghost town in every sense of the word.
The massive red building looms before us as we take a quick, steep trek through the woods to the top of Kennecott Mill. So where are we next?
So this is the very top entrance to the mill building itself, kind of the first stop for the ore in the ceiling of this room.
We take off at 1,500 feet above sea level, and 25 miles that way is 6,000 feet of ice just tumbling down off of the top of the mountain.
You'll see so many different mineral streaked rock formations.
all the rivers converging. Dan Creek Gold Mine is around the corner. A lot of historical bridges that are left, and this is the Erie Mine, obviously early 1900s. So there's just any number of things to be seen.
We've got a group down on the ground. They're doing a glacier hike, and we actually got the better end of the deal. We're up in the air flying over the top of the Root Glacier right now. I've never seen anything like this before. It's absolutely incredible. We can see the mines at Kennecott. We can see the Wrangell Mountains.
Sometimes you forget how close adventure is in Alaska. It's right down the road. We'll see you next time.
Tonight on the NewsHour, getting the bad news. Fire victims near Willow find out if their homes were destroyed or spared by the McKinley fire. We'll bring you an update on the number of homes that were lost.
Well, there is a smell in the air, and coming up next, I'll tell you why. It's not football.
And Friday at the fair is the perfect way to end your week. Channel 2's Jackie Purcell and Hank Davis are standing by to bring us all the fun as well as some shenanigans of their own.
Look pretty happy out there, don't
Thank
they?
you.
Yeah. All right, plus we'll have a special guest out at the fair showing off some of his super cool ninja moves.
The NewsHour starts now.
You're watching KTUU Channel 2 Anchorage, Alaska's news source. And now, the Channel 2 NewsHour from the state's #1 news team.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, here's the count tonight, and it is not good. 51 homes, 3 businesses, and approximately 80 outbuildings.
That is the destruction of the McKinley fire so far. Now today, the Mat-Su Borough officially notified people about their destroyed property.
Channel 2's Grant Robinson and Derek Minnemeyer were each at one of the shelters that were set up for evacuees, and they share how the victims are handling the news. Grant Robinson, what's going on?
Well, Mike, Rebecca, of the more than 50 families who lost their home, about half of them have already found short-term housing with friends or family. That's according to the Mat-Su Borough EMS Director Ken Barkley. But planning for what's ahead is difficult because it's hard to keep up with what's happening right now.
There's nothing left of Ashley Johnson's home on mile 87.5 of the park's highway.
Our 5 dogs and 2 cats and geese and chickens are what we could grab.
Friends who had checked on her property across from Camp Cassville told her that some chickens she had left behind survived, but that her home was destroyed. Then Friday morning, the Mat-Su Borough confirmed that news.
You can totally tell that they definitely feel for us. We went in there, we sat down, he showed me the pictures. You could tell he was even hesitant to show me just because it is devastating to see. You see everything you own just gone. Just gone.
Like many of the fire's victims, Johnson didn't have insurance. She wants to rebuild, but right now she's still not even allowed back onto the property because it's still an active firefighting scene. Until fire crews allow re-entry, the only path forward is walked with small steps.
One day at a time, by the grace of God and with my friends. This community's been amazing. They've come together, helped us get clothes, helped us get blankets, helped us get a place even to stay in, and it's just been amazing with that aspect. Granted, it's heart-wrenching.
It is.
At the same time, but, at least have my chickens and I have my animals and my family, and I know I have that, so that's a plus.
Now, Johnson and other victims I spoke with say they plan to rebuild, but that's an issue for down the road. Right now, this is still an active fire, and just today, a level 2 evacuation notice was extended for miles 79 to 81.5 of the park's highway. That means if you live in that area, you should be ready to evacuate within a 5 minutes notice. Mike, Rebecca.
All right, Grant, thanks for the update. Well, today as homeowners learned the fate of their properties after fire officials completed their damage assessments, some returned to find good news. The fire had spared their homes.
Channel 2's Derek Minnemeyer spoke with people who evacuated and the volunteers who have kept them going. They are at the Upper Susitna Senior Center in Talkeetna today.
It's impossible to know what these evacuees are going through or how they're feeling unless you've actually been through it. But hearing their stories gives us a better understanding of the trauma that they've endured.
That's the one trailer, and that's the other trailer, and everything is standing. It's just amazing.
Friday afternoon was the first time Patty Song had seen her home since last Sunday when they had to evacuate due to the McKinley fire.
It is a trip. And it's like, wow.
Miraculously, their home's still standing while everything else around charred and smoldering.
And we know the people down there, we know people who have lost their stuff, so. In this subdivision, very few people are still have their places.
The anxiety of Sunday night into Monday morning was tremendous. It was gut-wrenching.
Randall Sparks lives in the same area as Patty, around mile marker 91 on the Parks Highway. When he learned his home burned down, he directed his attention to volunteering at the Upper Susitna Senior Center in Talkeetna.
I just decided at that point that, accept the fate, we got busy back here.
Matt Clark lives in Talkeetna and says volunteering during a fire evacuation is the least he can do to help members of his community.
The sad part is seeing the folks affected by the fire. It's just heartbreaking when somebody comes in and their home's destroyed, or they don't know what their home's like. They don't have anything to go back to. They don't have any hope.
It's all burning.
Lewis Luther and Patty Song say they can't rest until the fire is totally done burning.
Terrible tragedy. This is shock and despair. My neighborhood's incinerated. Most of my neighbors they're burnt out. They're gone.
Patty and Lewis say they know the danger is not over, and they hope that their home continues to withstand the flames. Reporting in Talkeetna, Derek Minnemeyer, Channel 2 News.
Just a short time ago, Governor Mike Dunleavy issued a disaster declaration for the Mat-Su Borough and Kenai Peninsula Borough for the impacts from the McKinley-Deshka Landing and Swan Lake fires.
The wildfires have damaged or destroyed an estimated 83 structures and resulted in a mandatory evacuation of about 400 people and caused travel delays along the Sterling and Parks highways and for the railroad traffic along the Alaska Railroad's routes. The governor's declaration activates Alaska Public Assistance, individual assistance, and temporary housing programs.
Well, for nearly a week, we've watched how quickly these fires in the Mat-Su grew and the destruction that they've caused.
But what about its early start? A man from Wasilla thinks he could have stumbled across what happened.
And I happened upon a tree that had knocked a power line down onto the ground. And when I first arrived, the fire was just smoldering there.
Smoldering with low-hanging smoke, Chris Hines says he took this picture and others near mile 90 of the Parks Highway Saturday afternoon.
He called 911 and backed away within minutes. Fire flared up in a tree. Before long, firefighters attacked by air and emergency evacuations were ordered. So was this the McKinley fire's big start? Well, Channel 2 investigative reporter Joe Burke delved into that today. We'll have her report coming up later in the newscast. And an important update for students and families in the Mat-Su Borough School District. District officials say the Berryozava, Willow Elementary, Talkeetna Elementary, and Trapper Creek Elementary Schools and Sioux Valley Junior Senior High School staff will return to the school this coming Monday, August 26th.
Now, students will tentatively go back to school on Tuesday, the 27th. Officials say they'll update families by Monday at noon for a Tuesday start.
All right, we'll have more on the fires coming up a little later in the newscast, and we'll have more information about the smoke they're creating.
But right now, we're going out to Jackie, who's enjoying a sunny day on day 2 of the Alaska State Fair.
Well, there we go. Jackie's going to flick that switch on the bottom of her microphone and see if we can hear her a little better. We see her lips moving. Jackie, come in,
there
Jackie.
There she goes.
Go, Jackie.
I can hear you now.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go for it.
Nothing like a good microphone check, isn't there? Well, can you hear me now?
Yes, indeed. You go right for it, Jackie.
All right. Well, as far as the Palmer Fair, it is great weather here today. Sunshine and smoky. So we're going to say that it's money. Let's take a look at our current conditions back in the Anchorage area where it is pretty hazy across those mountains. And our current temperature there is 67 degrees. As we look at the fair forecast, we can see that we're really warm right now, 69 degrees, very light winds. And as we get to our forecast for this evening and air quality, it is an air quality advisory, and this advisory is going to go through Sunday. It has been unhealthy not only in the Anchorage area but also in the Butte area near Palmer. As far as the forecast for just this evening, it's looking good, and I swear it's going to be looking good as we head through the weekend. The only problem is a slight chance of showers, and maybe some smoke lingering. We'll have more on the forecast coming up a little bit later here on the News Hour.
Have fun, Jackie. Thanks so much. Well, Friday means it's time for KTUU Tailgate Tour Game of the Week, but the wildfires had other plans.
Outdoor high school activities across South Central Alaska were canceled because of the poor air quality. But Channel 2 Sports Director Patrick Enslow joins us from Palmer with the latest on that situation. Patrick?
Mike, Rebecca, we get prepared all week for this game. And then it was a bit of a bummer, a bit of a letdown. We weren't able to play, but the show must go on. We're hanging out here, getting ready for the game. As you said, games in all South Central, the Mat-Su and Anchorage, they were canceled. Now, I talked to the Palmer athletic director, and he told me they're trying to reschedule this game for 7 o'clock right here at Palmer High tomorrow. And depending on that air quality, it will either be held here in Palmer or they might have to move it to Diamond, but they will try to play that game. No game, no problem today. Now, later on in the news hour, I will have an awesome story from Catherine Ushman. She's the kicker for Palmer. Never played a snap of football in her life, but she's out here. She's a starting kicker for Palmer. Great story. Can't wait to bring it to you guys here a little bit later on in the newscast. Mike, Rebecca.
Patrick was kind of sad out there. He's got his little, little barbecue grill and nobody's there.
Nobody.
It's all right, Patrick. It'll be okay.
We like you, Patrick.
Hopefully they'll get the game going tomorrow.
That'd be nice.
Yep.
Well, whether you like seeing the animals or riding the rides, eating the food, or shopping the booths, there is plenty to do at the Alaska State Fair.
And coming up next, we'll check in with Hank Davis and see how he decided to spend his Friday at the fair. All right, it's day number 2. Full festivities of the Alaska State Fair. They're in full swing. We've got quite a few folks from Channel 2 out there today joining in the fun.
And we actually caught our reporter, Hank Davis, playing around the clock. He's been busy checking out the games, taking in a few rides, but now he's on the hunt for the best fair food. Not just any kind, though. This is the stuff that you'll only get at our Alaska State Fair.
Go, Hank.
Hey guys, that's right. I'm glad that I actually caught a few rides yesterday because right now I'm way too full to take any chances. This is my first Alaska State Fair, and there's nothing wrong with funnel cakes or corn dogs, but I spent the day all over the fairgrounds and I've been looking for the most Alaskan foods that I can find.
All our fish here is all filleted every day. We make everything here. It's the only place, it's real seafood. We have it flown in every other day. How many? One. Crack the shells for you like that. Throw it right on the grill. But if you want something really good and fresh and true Alaskan, the real organic, not from the store with the sticker on it, you come here.
We only do this at the fair. It started out in 1997. We make everything. We bake all of our own shells and make all of our filling, all of our toppings. We have a chocolate fudge, a 4-berry, a salted caramel, and a regular caramel.
So where do these oysters come from?
Which one's up? 30 miles out of Whittier. You ready? So a half dozen raw. Okay.
We'll sell usually somewhere around 30,000.
So there you have it, guys. You've probably already guessed that I'm absolutely stuffed right now, but the good news is that we've got plenty of time left because I haven't gone to nearly the amount of booths that there are out here. A ton of food left. And also, I'm going to be back later on in the news hour. I'll have a very special guest with me, and maybe he'll be able to help me burn off a few of those pounds. For now, I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you guys.
All right, Hank. I bet he will, too. And Hank, Rebecca turned to me and said, I really don't like the cream puffs. I don't like the sweet stuff.
I like salty
And
stuff.
I
I'm
said,
not a big sweet
You're
person.
crazy, Rebecca Paulson. Cream puffs are one of the best things at the fair. Just knock it off. All right, still ahead of maybe smoky, but don't let that be a deterrent to you.
We have a feeling the crowd is still going to turn up for the weekend at the Alaska State Fair. We're going to check in with Jackie next.
We have over 100 different events and performances and things, artists out here, numerous artists. And so you can't take it all in one day.
There's not enough time to look at all the exhibits and the farm animals in one day, so we break it up.
So, walk around, have fun, eat food. Oh, and we also went on the bumper cars.
Love the bumper cars. The second day of the Alaska State Fair is in full swing. We've heard about some of the fun things that there are to do, and now we'll tell you about how the weather is going to look for this fair weekend.
Jackie Brissell tells us even though it's smoky outside, people are still having fun at the fair. Jackie, what's our fair forecast looking like?
Well, the fair forecast is going to call for a slight chance of showers here tomorrow, but for tonight, it's going to be beautiful. We have mostly sunny skies out here in Palmer, and a little live music, the Ninja Camp going on as well, so lots of activities. I'd say that the fair is very big this year. Now let's take a look at our current conditions back in the Anchorage area, and we're looking at very hazy conditions across the mountains and even down through the bowl area, so it's been a warm one. As far as the rest of the forecast, we're going to continue to see warm conditions. In fact, we topped out today in the Anchorage area at 68 degrees with 54 for your overnight low and 34 degrees. Think about that. That was the low temperature in 1974, nowhere near that. Here's a look at your temperatures across the state, and we're into the 40s from the Arctic slope. We go to the 60s once you hit southern Alaska, 69 in fact for Kodiak Island, but it's staying cool. They're getting some rain and cloud cover in southeast Alaska, which is much needed. They were in drought conditions too. We continue to see that drought-like dryness around the south central area. Temperatures very warm. It's nice for the fairgoers, but it's very dangerous, as we can see, with all these wildfires going on. As we look at our satellite radar imagery, push it into the Gulf of Alaska, where we see that big storm system still affecting southeast Alaska, and a lot of cloud cover still extending just to the south of the Aleutian chain. For the south central region, a little bit of shower activity into the region, but it's farther north, and there it is into the interior. So you can see that they are getting a little bit of wet weather there, but the forecast is calling for all the wet weather to kind of bypass the south central area as well as the mainland. Now the higher elevations, or the higher latitudes I should say, the northern coast could see some elevated surf over the next several days, but actually mainland Alaska is going to be fairly quiet until Monday. Hopefully we'll get some precipitation into next week, but it's not looking good at this point. We are looking at sunshine for the continued forecast across the south central area, and a little bit of smoke lingering as well, and into the Matanuska-Susitna Valley, where we happen to be right here in Palmer. A high expected to top out at 66 degrees for our Saturday. Overnight lows, though, a little chilly, down to the mid to upper 40s. As far as the 7-day forecast for Anchorage as well as the valleys, we're looking at sunshine Saturday as well as Sunday with some smoke lingering, and you can see those percentages of precipitation still very low. We could really use some precipitation. In fact, in the month of May, we had over 2 inches of rain, and that is more rain than we have had in the month of June, July, as well as August. So you can see we're very dry. The flowers are very beautiful here at the State Fair, though, and they're one of the attractions, as well as all the fun, the food, and the games and the exhibits. Back to you.
Jackie, do you like cream puffs? Rebecca said she doesn't like cream puffs, and I told her
no.
she's crazy.
I don't want any upset emails, though. My not interest in
I
sweets.
want to hear what Jackie has to say.
Well, cream puffs are always good. Yeah, they're going to feature them in some of the fair food that we're going to be looking at. I know Hank tasted one earlier today.
They look really good. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for the
Jackie.
affirmation. Still ahead, he says he's willing, but they're saying no.
In an unexpected turn of events, the 2020 Iditarod is going forward without one of its veteran mushers this year, and he is not happy about it. It is August, and we are already talking about the Iditarod.
And here's why, in case you missed it yesterday, veteran musher Jim Lanier told Channel 2 he was denied entry into next year's race.
I don't agree with any of this. And that's about all I can say about it. I really want to do the race. I've done the race. In every calendar decade, the race has been run, starting in the 70s.
Now, the 78-year-old musher completed the Copper Basin 300 and Yukon Quest this winter to requalify, but the Iditarod Qualifying Review Board denied his application. Chair of the review board, Mark Nordman, said it was a difficult decision, but they factored in the feedback that they received from the Quest, plus concerns whether Lanier will be able to care for himself and his dogs.
Now, during the 2018 Iditarod, Scott Jansen saved Lanier from freezing between the checkpoints of White Mountain and Safety. Both were flown to the finish line and had to scratch. So with no Iditarod this winter, what's next for Lanier?
Yes, I do plan to keep mushing and do races this winter. And I would like to do Iditarod this winter. I would like them to change their mind.
Now, Lanier can apply for the 2021 race, and for more on this story, just go to our website, KTUU.com.
Still ahead, little ninjas are taking over the Alaska State Fair.
And they're being taught by the best of the best. We'll chat with Alaska's Eskimo ninja, Nick Hansen, when we come back. All right, you and I can't be there, but we're going to keep making trips out to the Alaska State Fair because there's a lot of fun going on out there.
It certainly is a good time. And then we go back there to the fairgrounds with Hank Davis, who also has a very special guest.
Go, Nick.
That's right, guys. Right now I'm here with someone that I know as Nick Hansen. Alaska knows him as the Eskimo Ninja Warrior. We're here at his Ninja Pro Camp that's been going on today, and it's a blast out here, Nick. You guys are having a good time. Tell me about the Ninja Pro Camp and everything else you guys are doing out here.
So we've been doing a Ninja Pro Camp all day long. It's started at noon and it's ending right about at 8 o'clock tonight. We're doing full course runs right now. GCI donated an Apple Watch to the fastest time for the winner tonight. So we're donating an Apple Watch. It's going to be an amazing time. Tomorrow we're doing Ninja Pro Camps all day long again, starting at 10 o'clock every 2 hours. So 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, noon, 4 o'clock. Did I do that backwards? I think I did, but it's okay. But we've got Ninja Pro Camps happening all day tomorrow, and we've got six of the top ninjas here from all over the states. Grant McCartney, the Island Ninja, Jesse Flex Lebrecht, Ethan Swanson, the Daredevil, Krista Ganji, Tiana Weberly, and Jerry Gerulio, and including myself, we got some of the top ninjas in the world here coaching all the kids, teaching them how to be ninjas.
Yeah, so a lot of the guys that you'll see competing on the American Ninja Warrior TV show out here, you guys are coaching up those kids. It was blowing my mind what they were doing earlier this morning. Talk to me about why you guys work with young Alaskans, why kids are important to you, man.
I mean, not just young Alaskans, but youth all across the world. I mean, all we really want to do is instill positivity right there. Instill positivity. This kid just got the wing nuts. He's crushing right now. He's getting ready to do the warp wall. And we're just trying to make sure that they have something else out there. Especially in rural Alaska, it's really hard to get any kind of opportunities. So Ninja Warrior is just one of those opportunities. And we all out here want to help present that to them.
All right, and so before we send it back, you are going to show us how it's done. He'll make it look easy for us. So you want to get the wall really quick?
Yeah, I'll do the same thing.
All right, well, so I think he's going to give it a shot really quick.
Look at that little guy. He almost made it.
All right, here we go.
Go, Nick, go. Ninja in training right there. Giving us some encouragement.
Come on, little guy.
There we go.
You
Get the
got
cheer
it.
going. Come on, you can do it. You can do it.
You got it.
Going right
Oh, yay! They did it. Oh.
That's awesome. Look at him go. Look at him go.
Absolutely awesome. Nothing like that. We're going to keep stuff like that going on out here at the fair. We're going to get off the air, send it back to you guys so we can catch more of the action. Reporting in Palmer, Hank Davis for Channel 2 News.
Hank, hit the wall. You can do it. You can do it. We know you can, Hank. All right.
I'm so proud of that kid.
No, it's
I'm
great.
so proud.
We don't know who he is, but he's certainly a ninja in training. That's
Totally.
for sure. All right, don't worry. We are not quite done yet.
We still have more fair fun on the way. Stay tuned because Jackie will tell us what day is the perfect day to venture out. How did the McKinley fire get started? Tonight we talked to a man who says he may have been there at the exact moment the devastating fire flared up. We're going to show you what he saw.
Protection from the air pollution, why it's so important to know how to properly safeguard yourself from the wildfire smoke and how it could save you in the long run.
And new revelations about clergy misconduct. We get details about a report about alleged sexual misconduct within the Catholic Church.
You're watching Alaska's #1 news team with Mike Ross, Rebecca Palsha, and Jackie Purcell with the weather. The Channel 2 News Hour continues.
Happening now at Willow Elementary School, a community meeting is taking place about the McKinley fire. Let's take a look. Right now, that fire has burned 3,753 acres so far. It is only 10% contained. The Parks Highway remains open. Motorists are warned to expect long delays, though, and intermittent closures, depending on the fire activity.
And the McKinley fire is one of the burns that resulted in Governor Dunleavy announcing a disaster declaration today, along with the Deshka Landing fire and Kenai fires. The disaster declaration activates Alaska public assistance, individual assistance, and temporary housing programs for those affected by the fire. Tonight we go back in time to the day the McKinley fire broke out and an incredible series of photographs that may have captured how it started.
A Wasilla man weekending near mile 90 of the Parks Highway took pictures of a tree and the power line it toppled into. Channel 2 investigative reporter Jill Burke has more on the story. Jill?
Mike and Rebecca, trees on power lines has certainly been a suspected cause, though at this time is unconfirmed, and the origin for the McKinley fire remains under investigation. When you see, though, what Chris Hines saw, you'll see just how easily it can happen. We've seen what the McKinley fire grew into. Roaring flames, heartbreaking loss, everyone thankful no one was hurt. But what about the fire's early beginnings? Late Saturday afternoon, as winds blew through the area's unrelenting dry conditions, Chris Hines thinks he may have stumbled across them.
And I happened upon a tree that had knocked a power line down onto the ground. And when I first arrived, the fire was just smoldering there at the line right at the ground there, and it was smoking.
He snapped a picture, then, with the line broken and arcing, backed away.
And then right after I got off the phone with 911 is when I took that picture of it flaring up on a tree, and that's kind of when the fire really got going.
Do you think that that's the power line that kind of ignited the bigger fire, or just one of many that contributed?
You know, I'm no investigator, so I can't tell you. I can say that right after I called 911 and after I noticed that the fire was burning in that spot, that's when the helicopter showed up and they started dropping water on it, and that's 45 minutes later the police evacuated us, and then, you know, that's when the McKinley fire started.
The official word, the fire is human caused, which could mean a tree into a power line, but it's still under investigation.
We had significant wind incidents throughout our service territory on that day, and several were trees falling into lines.
The pictures Hines took clearly show a well-groomed utility easement bordered by tall birch and spindly spruce.
Our traditional distribution easement is about 30 feet, and that again is to decrease impact to members and decrease impact of our lines. So that's usually 15 feet on either side.
That means any tree bordering the easement that's taller than 15 feet has the potential to be a problem, including birch trees, which it appears this one is. And when Hines saw it, MEA's Julie Esty says he did what they want everyone to do.
First, we just ask our members not to go near any sort of tree in the line, to call 911 or our dispatch center, because anything that's touching our line can be energized. The ground around that can be energized, so please do not go through that.
Hines has shared his pictures with fire investigators, and his sequence shows how quickly the fire grew. Reminders of how quickly life can change.
I have friends that have lost their entire homes and all their belongings. We're really blessed to say that we haven't lost anything, but my heart goes out to them. It's absolutely the most tragic thing I can think of.
And Hines told us just a few hundred yards north of the fire's edge is where his property is. Meanwhile, MEA has not been able to get into areas to assess things firsthand. Its crews are assisting firefighters however they can.
All right, thanks, Jill. Wildfires burning around the state have made for pretty smoky summer conditions, and Alaskans are concerned about their health.
And today, the Anchorage Health Department says air quality will be unhealthy for sensitive groups throughout the entire weekend. Channel 2's Kristen Duran joins us now with some of the ways you can protect yourself. Kristen?
Yeah, one of the ways to guard yourself from the smoke is to wear a mask like this one if you're outdoors for a prolonged period of time, and pay attention to the rating, because it turns out a regular old dust mask or a scarf just won't do. In fact, it's just as good as wearing nothing at all.
You can barely tell under the thick layer of smoke, but that's downtown Anchorage off in the distance, far away from the wildfires burning in other parts of the state, but not too far away for an unhealthy air quality advisory.
You can get a dry throat, scratchy throat, some wheezing, hoarseness.
So you may head to the store to pick up an air mask or respirator, but which one do you get?
First of all, it's important to know the difference between a dust mask and a respirator. So a dust mask is designed to keep out large particles like sawdust from you breathing those in. And so those dust masks really don't help protect a person from fine particulates that are in the air.
Dr. Joe McLaughlin is the state epidemiologist. He says, first, you want to make sure you're getting a mask that has the word NIOSH.
and that stands for the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. So it's a NIOSH certified respirator. And then you want to look for either N, capital N95 or P100. Those respirators are designed to take small particles out of the air when you're breathing in.
And if you're sensitive to smell,
this charcoal one would get rid of the smell more, you know, if you're sensitive to the smell, but it's not going to take a finer particle out than the other N95 rated mask.
and if you're looking for ways to improve the air quality inside your home, you may want to look into getting an air purifier, or if you have a forced air heating system, a 1500 rated air filter.
And if you do have to be outside, avoid physical exertion as much as you're able. We also recommend that people keep their children from heavy exertion outside. Sometimes children are less aware than adults of signs or symptoms of smoke.
Because harm to your lungs is yet another consequence of what is already shaping up to be a devastating disaster.
Dr. McLaughlin says anyone can benefit from wearing a respirator in smoky conditions in days like today here in Anchorage under an unhealthy air quality advisory. But those with underlying heart or lung conditions should consult their healthcare provider first